And here we are, finally getting to one of the great deep secrets of Revelation. The number that you see before you, 666. Or do you see the number 666, three sixes in a row? When you open up the NIV, you see it just like this, three sixes in a row. So do you say 666 or do you say 666? And one of the keys to unlocking what this all means is knowing the answer to that, because there is a better answer and a worse answer. So let's consider first the three numbers, 666. Well, there was once a very silly movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. It came out actually in 1999, and it was one of these movies, or it was the late 90s anyway, but it was one of these movies that was sort of casting forward to the millennium, the turn of the millennium. And I don't remember the name of it, and I didn't Google it first before opening this clip. So this just kind of goes to show you how these clips are kind of seat of the pants stuff and very human, just like an original, just as though we were actually meeting. And in this movie, the premise is that actually John, in looking at this number, he was seeing it actually upside down, and so it wasn't 666. You see, it was the number 999, and the reference then was to every 1,000 years it would end 999. So in the year 999, well, then in the year 1999, the devil would be unchained to wreak particular kinds of havoc. So that is a way to look at these digits as three sixes in a row. One of my favorite explanations of 666 and its meaning is that you have the sixth letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav. And Vav looks like this. Okay? Yeah, it's not very complicated there. But you have Vav, Vav, Vav. And in that current transliteration that calls this the letter Vav, it's transliterated as a V. So this is how you sound the consonant, see, with a V. But earlier, back in older days, when you would transliterate the Hebrew alphabet into English consonants, it wasn't Vav, it was the Wa, the Wa. So you had, instead of Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav, you had Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Wa. And so instead of Vav, 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 you have Wa, Wa, Wa. WWW. And no one can buy or sell without the number of the beast. Websites on the internet. This was shown to me a little over 20 years ago. Well, that's really pretty spooky, isn't it? Of course, another explanation you have is when you have different sixes, is, well, let's see, any June 6th at 6 a.m., if a baby was born at any June 6th, 6 a.m., could be the beast, right? Or in 1966, or, uh, you know, 2006, or whatever it might be. Just try to get sixes in a row, and then you can, go from there. And I think that that's part of where the premise for the movie The Omen is out of that, isn't it? Isn't the child's birthday like June 6th or something like that? So anyway, you can see that I really don't have a lot of truck with reading this as 3 6s. And I'll tell you why. It's because we're looking at 3 Arabic numerals. See, you and I, we just assume, we see this, we see it written out in our Bible, 666. And we just kind of assume that Arabic numerals are universal and have been universal all the time, because they are now how math is conducted internationally. But no, actually, in ancient times, the Roman alphabet had its own numeric correspondences. So did the Greek alphabet. And so, by the way, did the Hebrew alphabet. So, in these 3 alphabets, each of their letters also had numeral value. They did not look like this. Furthermore, in Greek, what John does when he says the number of his name, its number is, he doesn't write out 3 corresponding digits. He writes out 666. He doesn't enumerate. He writes it out. So there is no John, reading this wrong, reading this upside down, or anything like that. The number of the name of the beast is 666. Well, where do we go from there? The clue is that the ancient languages that would have been of concern to John's readers were Greek and Hebrew. And so when John challenges his readers to calculate the number of the beast, his number is 666. He is not telling people this is a deep, dark secret. In order to figure this out, you have to join a gematria cabal and practice numerology, which is so much superstitious hocus pocus. This is a straightforward calculation of a man's name, meaning you simply take that man's name and look at the letters that and see that value them according to their corresponding numbers. And when you do that in the Hebrew alphabet, and you string together the letters for Nero Caesar, as the Hebrews, as the ancient Israelites would have translated that and put that in their own Hebrew characters, that's the total that you come up with, 666. Not a mystery, not a big mystery at all to John's first century readers. Are there other names that can be made to fit into 666. There have been attempts to do so by Christians in succeeding generations and succeeding lifetimes. And so they have compressed, Napoleon Bonaparte in different ways and in different languages, whether it works in Latin maybe, or it works in Hebrew, or it works in Greek. And they have come up with different other candidates for the beast, 666. Well, the first century readers get it. For them, it's really not a mystery. They're not being invited to practice numerology. They're simply invited to take their language and assign the numerical value to the name. And Nero Caesar, in numerical value, is 666. Well, does that make Nero the beast or the only beast? No, it's not Nero who is the only beast. The beast is a demon who's called out of the abyss. The beast is Satan's principal ally. We had met the beast before in a different shape as the spirit of empire riding the white horse, carrying the bow and arrow. So the beast is stringing along a series of puppets. Nero was not even the first one. Going back to Revelation chapter 11, this Bible study clip presents Antiochus Epiphanes and that story of desolating and desecrating the temple for 3.5 years as really the first human being for which the puppet master was the demon who was called the beast. And there have been any number who have followed after in that pattern. Nero following in the pattern of Antiochus Epiphanes. The general Titus standing on the Temple Mount, the temple in ruins, the altar destroyed in front of him, the practice of Old Testament Judaism forever desolated, never restored in 2,000 years. That general, Titus, goes on to become emperor in Rome himself. And he follows in the pattern of the beast. Diocletian, also claiming to be God and wanting to be worshipped as a god, just like Nero had been, and persecuting Christians who resisted that. His strings pulled by the beast. And then on through history. There's no doubt. Pick your tyrant, pick your world conqueror, Genghis Khan, Attila the Hun. There are no shortage of candidates as one lifetime is succeeded by another, because this is the devil's same bag of tricks, and his allies, the beast out of the sea, the beast of empire, and the beast from the land, who presents himself as a lamb but talks like a dragon with all the seductive words. These present the same lies over and over to generation after generation, and you and I have to make the choices, have to discern. So it may be that some of you were on pins and needles hoping that I would name a name today of someone whose strings are being pulled by the beast. Friends, I have this to say. There's no shortage of candidates, is there? They're all over the world, aren't they? Liars, as they hold the strings of power, as they plot and conspire, and as others allied to them spin their webs of deception in order to continue to keep us dull in our minds, asleep in our spirits, complacent as we live in a world system that, maybe for many of us who are watching something over the internet, isn't working out really all that bad. But we have seen the horsemen of the apocalypse galloping across the earth, sweeping across America. And we know that we are contending with those principalities and powers that want to do everything to undermine the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so we are called to stand for the truth. We are not called to our own acts of violence or of terror or of reprisal or of rebuttal. If we are called into captivity, we may end up going. If we are called to be killed by the sword, then that witness of our martyrdom is an ultimate victory. And what looks like defeat for the believers at the hands of worldly powers and the beast that pulls their strings, whether it's in India, whether it's across the Islamic world, whether it's in nations that continue to identify with the Communist Manifesto, whether it's in the greatest empire economically and militarily that the world has ever seen. We are called to be faithful even unto death. And that will be how we overcome. Not by might, not by power, says the Lord Almighty, but by my Spirit. May his Spirit abide with you and give you discernment and give you peace as you continue to live and to examine your own choices and what God is calling you to do and to be in these times. Amen.